Our goal is to have an environment that's going to enable these content creators to just go out there. It's bringing in their most engaged users into a session, making a beat, flipping music, or just interacting on reviewing what the audience has made. But at the very least, you're opening the door to a new type of content that's never been done, that's never been really exposed.
This podcast is sponsored by Allfeed, a decentralized blockchain solution for the music industry. Produced by Amplitude Ventures, your partners in early stage music tech. Mixing fresh ideas from the gaming world with classic music production and talking with Alex and Nick from BeatConnect in Montreal, they share how they're reinventing collaboration for musicians, making it easier and more fun than ever. I had a blast and learned a ton. Let's dive in. Hey guys, and welcome back to Sound Connections podcast. Today we have Alex and Nick in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
You guys are, I hope I do not butcher the description. You're basically making a DAW in a very different way, a digital audio workstation, a way to work with music. And I think it's really, really interesting. As I told you, I have been working music production for a while, and my last connection with collaborating online was like 7 years ago when Pro Tools launched like some sort of online collaboration tool, which was really, really bad. But obviously a lot of things have happened since then. Nick and Alex, for the people who don't know who you are you and what do you do?
All right, so I'll kick us off. I'm Alex, CEO and co-founder. My role within the business, like if you were to split the business into from, tech and admin organization, I am on the admin and organization side. So legal, marketing, fundraising, which takes 99% of any startup's life. That's on me. But obviously I help my partner here with kind of like soundboard and product roadmap and development. But very much, on my side of the business there.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. And I'm Nick. I'm CTO, co-founder, visionary of BeatConnect. But no. I'll eat some humble pie. But this has been in my mind for a very long time. I'm the music guy of the bunch. I guess we'll get into the whole story of it. But we met, Alex and I, at a job that we both hated, actually. And it was at the beginning of the pandemic. And there was an opportunity to maybe start to realize this vision, it's been a crazy journey ever since.
Amazing. If you could give me like a 1-minute pitch, what is BeatConnect? And Alex, I guess you're the one doing pitching the most, so you give it a go?
Yeah, for sure. The one-liner is BeatConnect is a collaborative platform for musicians to come, connect, make music together. It is essentially DAW agnostic. As you said, we built our own DAW. We do everything in there. And the twist is that we're actually a platform that kind of gamifies the creative workflow. We're the first platform in the world to use the Unity game engine to really create the interface. Our goal is essentially to change the way musicians perceive music creation. It's not so much about the outcome, but about the journey and how you do it. And we think that taking a few pages out of the gaming industry to get there is the way to go for music as well.
That's a great pitch, and let's actually start the conversation there. Like a lot of the conversations I have about the future of engagement or monetization or whatever you want to call it within music often refers to gaming. And the reason is very simply they've done much better in growth and retention and purchasing from users' perspective in gaming that has done music for a decade plus. And the difficult thing about talking about gaming is how to transfer their success into music, which is also what I've been struggling with concept-wise. So if you were to make it super simple for me and the listeners to understand, what is it in particular you've taken from gaming that you believe would and can be successful in music?
Yeah, Nick, you want to start?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about this. I think that there are two very different conceptual philosophies between the gaming and the music industry that really shape a lot of the decisions, what happens. I believe I'm going to flip it. I believe the gaming industry is more interested in getting new users, new people to experience gaming, more people to play games. And the evidence of this are things like cross-play. so that you could be on Xbox, I could be on PlayStation, but we could still be playing the same game. There are modding communities. There are crazy tools like Unity, which encourage people to build and create new things. And there's a fostered sense of come and try. It's okay if you don't like it. You can also leave, but we play nice with everyone. Whereas conversely, and I'll speak about the music production scene, it is the complete opposite. It's about keeping people and not getting new people. So no DAW works with each other. None of the file formats work with each other. Nothing changes. In fact, most of the software, you still need a USB key to run, which you don't even have on MacBooks anymore. And the business models are equally outdated, but designed in such a way to keep you stuck in that ecosystem versus encouraging you to explore and play nice with others. And I think that mindset completely trickles down and affects very much the engagement and the growth that you'll see within the industries.
Dude, it's such a deep-rooted thing as well. Like, we went to a conference last year in, where was it, Nick, again? Can you remember?
Austin?
No, sorry, in Europe.
Oh, it was in Belgium.
Yeah, in Belgium, sorry. And essentially, I vividly remember when they lost me at that conference, because there was a guy, like a very, very boomer kind of gray ponytail guy that came on stage, and he didn't have anything to present. He was just asking people, let's solve the music industry. Tell me what's wrong with the music industry. And everybody who tried to raise their hand and answer, really trying to help and support, he would answer, wrong, that's not how you do it, and this, and he was kind of like going on and on about how it should be. I was like, oh my God, this gatekeeping that you're doing right now, this is what's fucking wrong with the music industry. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that too. It's almost encouraged. Very interesting. Yeah, and again, going back to music production, again, I'm just referencing old data from whenever I was there. But like, if you look at Pro Tools or Avid, those whole systems, ecosystems, they're extremely expensive. You build whole studios around them. You can't really exchange them. And I see that sort of mindset is not prevalent in gaming. And that sort of interchangeability of technology, of platforms or whatever, is very, very important, even like for even gaining market share. Like, if you want to make things easier for people, that's how you can actually reach the potential.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Let's go a bit to the journey in 2 seconds, but I have my own curiosity to fulfill first. Like, building a DAW, I can imagine is quite complex. And you guys need to host a lot of like VST3 plugins from different manufacturers and small companies. And I guess I don't know to what extent everything works with you guys, but I can imagine that that's a pretty big technological puzzle to put together. Has that been very difficult?
Of course. It is a source of half of my gray hairs. And it's a double-edged sword, because when you're building a DAW, people just compare it to another DAW. And I say, but that one's better. Why should I use yours? Yeah. And that's obviously a huge hurdle that we need to go over. And also, I would say the mentality of the audio industry to just keep using what they've been using, right? Like, when I don't produce as much music right now because I've just been trying to build this DAW, which is a little ironic because I went into this for music. But in like 2008, when I was doing a lot, the hottest VSTs out there was Omnisphere. Now we're like 15 years later, and Omnisphere is still mentioned at the top, and there's no new things kind of coming through the pipeline. Like, you see little gadgets and stuff, but it's the same thing recycled over and over and over. And it's like music producers are so used to it. And like, they're just in their mindset of this is the way it is. That not only do we fight technological kind of barriers, but you have a lot of people who are just like, this is the way it is, and it should not change. And they've been indoctrinated in that sense, and it's been tough. Whereas gamers are more open, I would say, to trying new things and to experiment and to go kind of further. There's a lot of people in music, especially those who've been doing it for a while, who are just really set in their ways, which of course presents additional challenges for us.
And technologically speaking, one of the barriers that we had beginning was we were a plugin. Like, when BeatConnect first launched, we were a plugin that would essentially load up in whatever DAW you're using and would act as like the sandbox environment where it would connect everything together. And it was a nightmare because just, again, the different DAWs wouldn't play nice with one another. Every time we needed to do a new release or a patch, you needed to do quality assurance on like, okay, I'm going to load up Ableton and now I need to validate that it works with FL, with, Studio One, with all the other. So let's say there's 12 big DAWs out there. Well, you do this kind of reverse QA for all of them like that. It was unsustainable. And we were opening up ourselves also strategically to just being very exposed in terms of like, let's say one player doesn't want to support us for one reason or another. There were ways that they could have actually, kind of make this whole thing crash. So we took a very, I think, wise decision in kind of like building our own thing there.
No, yeah, I can imagine. It is sort of like a nightmare, even as a producer, just trying to navigate that space. Just playing, you just switching DAWs and workflows. Okay, so what was the moment that you guys decided to address this? You said you met in COVID and you wanted to do something. Like, what happened?
Well, we were both working for Radio-Canada, which is part of CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company. We got brought in for a special project and hated it from like 1 week in.
From day one.
Day one, and just government workers who just didn't get stuff done, and I was just losing my mind. And I went to Toronto to the head office, and I hated it even more. And I got back to Montreal, and I remember we had a coffee together, and I was so depressed. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I love tech because I like to build things. It's fun, It's like construction work, but you don't need to buy nails and stuff. You just think of things and type a little bit, and then boom, stuff happens. And he told me I should maybe try to start something. I said, well, I have this idea because I used to make music with my friends a lot. Well, actually, we still did at the time. But I hate traveling because they're like out of town, and I have to drive for an hour. I have to drag all my crap, and I get stuck in traffic. And I show up, and then I forgot something. Damn it, that's screwing up the weekend. I'm like, I just want that magic of being able to make music with someone, but I want to do it during the week without this hassle, without these problems. And I'm like, how come I can game with them during the week, right? We could do anything with the gaming. It's so easy. Add you as a friend, a little chat list. We can hop on a quest, whatever it is, like good to go with music. Well, I got to open an email client, but I can't actually send that WAV file because there's nothing more unmusical than an email. Okay. It's just like the worst. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And Alex encouraged me to work on it. And I got stuck at home at some point, well, like everyone, but without any developers on my team. So I probably shouldn't say this in a recorded broadcast. I was working really hard for their projects, and it inspired me on my off time to pursue my passion. And that's the true story right there.
Oh, yeah. I can attest to that. That's exactly how it happened.
We've got it documented now, so that's how. Great. Okay.
Truth is out there.
And Alex, did you get inspired by that journey, or like how did you tag along?
Well, essentially, we were kind of like looking at it through different lens. He was trying to see if technologically it was possible, and what he told me about this passion project of his, I could not believe for a second that it hadn't been done before. So obviously, like my first thing that I did, of course, at home on my own time when I wasn't being paid to do something else, was to just look it up and do a lot of research and kind of start building, just a business plan, just high level. Is it feasible? That's okay. Nick's taking care of that. Hasn't been done before. Is the business model viable? What's happening? And like I could see so many companies that tried it in the past and failed, and there was nothing on the market that was really kind of scratching that itch. And it was just the perfect timing of us starting this thing at the very, very beginning of COVID. So it was like, okay, if somebody's got to do it, now's the right time. We need to like be a leg up here and start building this thing so that we can release it for people who are stuck at home.
Mm. It's interesting. I've worked in publishing for a while, and I had a publishing company during COVID. And I don't know if you guys were probably direct competitors with Audio Movers when you started, but that's sort of the platform we use or try to use. It was, again, as far as I recollect, when we did it, like the best solution that was like popular, but still kind of didn't work that very well. What happened in that space technology-wise when you launched the first product? What happened in the market? What in particular were you doing?
Well, the approach of like most of the softwares out there, specifically for collaboration, is real-time collab. Like they all focus on that kind of like golden goose of getting this algorithm that's going to account for the lag, for latency, the ping, and all that, and that they synchronize everything. And we saw some fundamental flaws in that flow. We were essentially, the way you work on BeatConnect is, of course, you can do sync, but you can also do async. You put your part down, you let people come in, you kind of adjust. It's all real time in that sense, but it doesn't need to like synchronize everybody, do 3, 2, 1, boom, and then you start recording on group. So for us, when we saw people go in that direction, like the different products go in that direction, we saw it as a very good sign for us. We were kind of like the only one innovating in that direction, and we got some pretty good feedback from the industry, from like the big players who were looking into that tech. So it was just honestly reinforcing that we were going in the right direction.
And I got a bit ahead of myself because you guys didn't talk about how you decided to do this together. I just had a comment where I seemed a tiny bit clever, so that's why I wanted to say it. But if we go back again, Alex, you saw sort of what Nick was working on, and did you guys decide to quit your job, or did you continue outside of work hours and build this thing? How did that go?
No, we were working outside of work hours a lot, so many hours through the night. And I know that like we met essentially and started working on this around February of 2020. I went full-time, like officially full-time, left my job in September of the same year. And I was like the first employee to do so. I'm fortunate enough that I could like essentially work on BeatConnect full-time without a salary for almost a year and a half. Like I was fully dedicated to this. It's kind of a personal dream of mine. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, build, have the business and all that. And it's a freaking journey. Like you've been there. Everybody that we talk to, it's not like the perfect kind of dream life of everything's going to pick up. No, it's a struggle, and you really need to brace yourself for it. But that's what I wanted, and I knew exactly what I was getting into, so I decided to go as soon as I could into this life.
And did you have any momentum there? Like, what when you went full time, what exactly were you joining?
We essentially didn't want to do like a pre-seed in terms of like fundraising. We wanted to build enough value on the product so that we could do a proper round with Montreal investors, Quebec investors. So I would say that 99% of my time at that point, I was like doing pitch competitions. I was like writing grant. I was getting loans from bank. I was like going to everything in Quebec and in Montreal to finance us. And we managed to essentially get just north of $500,000 in non-dilutive money to support like hiring our first developer, get Nick on a half-decent salary so that he as well could start, work full-time on this. So it was very much just let's scrape every penny that we can find. And luckily, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like Montreal is one of the best place to start a business for that, because there is so much money that you can get through like the government, provincial and federal level that doesn't require you to just completely dilute your business. Yeah.
Amazing. And how fast did it go? Like, has this been a step-by-step journey, or did you go fast? Can you talk about the journey? How did it happen?
Oh boy. I don't know. Like it's like fast forward, but then fast backwards and then fast forward. It is essentially a roller coaster of ups and downs, of which you don't know it's going to be up or it's going to be down. But it was quite interesting because I had built a prototype, tried it, sucked, scrapped it, built another one, which was more like a drum machine that was shared, sucked, scrapped it. We ended up with this Donada, as Alex had mentioned, plugin that started to work and be kind of decent. So Alex created a website for us. It was on WordPress. And I'm going with this. The day before the release, we're all excited. I wake up in the morning. I go on the website. I'm like, it's like a blank page. There's like nothing happening. I'm like, Alex, what happened? And he goes, I stayed up all night making a new website, but I deleted it by accident and now it's gone. So he had to redo it. And he did, though. A week later, we launched for real. And we had such a complicated flow. Like we talk about this a lot now. Like users, they're very fickle, especially in the music industry, as we were chatting about before. You put anything, it's like a pebble in their way, and they don't want to have anything to do with you. Our flow, you have to sign up on our website, okay? You have to put your address, including postal code and stuff like this, in order to create the account and download the plugin. Now, once you're in the plugin, you needed to make a second account because the two databases didn't talk to each other. Only then were you permitted to use BeatConnect. And somehow, despite this, and I can't name names, but there was a very prominent member of the music tech industry who was our first user ever, who reached out, and it's been kind of wild ever since. I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I can't believe, first of all, someone went through that. And second of all, that it was this person. How did they even find us? And they told us that what we were doing was unique in the industry. They were looking for something like this for a long time. We were solving problems. And we had a couple opportunities like that in a very short moment from, again, like just in the industry of music tech or music itself. And it was wild. And then we digitally went to the NOM conference, which was, all online at that time. And it was crazy. We did a little presentation that we put together, and we had like 60, 70 different companies or like show up. Like we had more people than like other huge established brands watching our little stream. And then we had universities contacting us to do educational stuff, and it was just like kind of wild. And then that's the up part of the roller coaster, by the way. Then boom, tick, 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 tick. Then it started to like, we actually had to deliver on some of these promises. Then it was like, nope, turns out the product is still crap, and it was crashing, and it wouldn't work in this DAW. And Apple's like, screw you, we're not going to let your Apple loops work on your product. And it's just been down. Then I had to rethink of things. Anyway, I could ramble about this for a while, but it's been definitely a difficult journey of first having a lot of acceptance, and then the realization that the product was not where it needed to be, reworking the product, and multiple iterations of this cycle over the years.
Did you get paying customers? What was the model of whatever you were releasing?
Well, it started with a SaaS model. We're like, okay, well, we want to make money every day, right? And like, we're like, it's fair that if you use a service that it serves, you pay for it. So we're like, oh, $10 a month should be fair. But people hated it. They hated it so much. They were very vocal because we were not only forcing them to pay $10 a month, but because it's about collaboration, we're forcing them to go harass their friend to pay $10 a month so that they can make music together. So it was a massive amount of backlash. And this is, again, where kind of we took some cues from the gaming industry. Alex, maybe if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Honestly, that to this day, I live and die by that one. We switched to a completely freemium model. So like, you want to use BeatConnect, it's 100% free. You can invite whoever you want. There's no feature flag for like anything that you use in the product. The only way that we do make money is we have a marketplace where like we sell assets. So like plugins, sounds, and whatnot. And it's very much in line with our philosophy of kind of like making it easier, because the assets that we're selling there are a lot cheaper than what you're going to get on the most of the marketplace, because we just want to get people going, right? There's a way to do this that doesn't involve spending thousands of dollars before you've hit a single note. And that's our approach there. So like it's a volume game, right? You want to do a lot, and the strategy is that you get enough data on how people are kind of like using these to kind of go to a big player like Isotope, a Native Instrument, and say, look, your instruments would work super well in BeatConnect where everything's collaborative. And by the way, you talked about plugins earlier, incorporating the plugins in this. Our plugins are 100% collaborative. So if you move a knob or if you switch, something in there, it's going to move for you as well in real time. But we also have the capabilities for some of the plugins that we support. Like you have the exact same version of a plugin. There is a way for you essentially to, same thing, turn that knob and it's going to appear on the other side. And it doesn't need to be a BeatConnect plugin. So that's a value prop that we go and see, manufacturers, and we tell them, come on BeatConnect, sell your stuff. It elevates kind of like the value prop that you offer to your users as well.
And how do plugin creators sort of approach this? Do you have like some documentation they need to follow, or like are you guys taking care of that, or what's happening there?
There's nothing to do. It just works out of the box.
Amazing. Okay. Cool.
Almost. There's a caveat, of course. Like it depends on the plugin. I talked about a lack of standards before. They're all built a little bit differently. But if a plugin exposes a parameter, then we can sync that parameter whoever's in that session. So it's great because it really allows people to do sound design together. It's super interesting new experience, and people aren't used to, for example, their Valhalla plugin. All of a sudden, someone else is twisting the knob. Like it just, I don't think anyone else has that feature, so it's pretty cool to be able to do that. And it's again fantastic for education. If you want to teach someone how to use a compressor, the best way is on their music with their tools. So it's cool to be able to offer that.
So I am a bit confused. Again, I'm coding actually most of like whatever cursor came out 6 months ago. I really started coding full time. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Like at least 30 hours a week. I run a company, but so I'm just researching a lot of things, and this is very new. I might be wrong, but as far as I understand, like most VSTs are built like Juice C++. Is that correct? So in theory, like it shouldn't be very difficult to make all of these things compatible. Like what is it exactly standing in the way for these things working together? DAWs, plugins?
Oh, it is definitely. Imagine we were in a session together and we wanted to use a sampler, okay? And you dragged a sample into the sampler. That sampler plugin, it's not going to send me that sample, right?
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
So it's not going to work. There are some plugins that have things on the screen that are not exposed as parameters. You may even notice sometimes in a DAW, like you can't automate everything that's in a plugin because devs, they just don't care. They'll do whatever they want. They won't follow the API standard. And when they do that, it's fine. It'll work in the context of just that plugin, but it does mean we don't have that hook to be able to send the information to the other users to sync things up. So it becomes always a matter of, did you just stick to the standard or are you doing some funky stuff on your own?
Okay.
And there's actually like maybe taking a step back from music, there's actually a very interesting precedent for that in the market in the last couple of years, which was Figma and kind of like Adobe that tried to acquire them. Because everybody during that time period was trying to do collaboration, right? Oh, let's just tack on collaboration on top of our existing product and tech stack. It doesn't work that way, man. Like it's just too hard when you have all of these flows and functionalities that are structured in the way. And then what happens is that your collaborative feature are just half-assed ideas that dilutes the very meaning of what is collaboration, which is something that happened to us all the time. You Google, collaborative music making platform and plugins and all that, and you get these like backward plugins and backward DAWs that are just kind of like syncing versions of like Dropbox and whatnot, but they're not true collab. That's not the flow. You're not ideating with one another. You're not, bouncing an idea and pitching and iterating. It's very much just this one thing. So the fact that Figma had this from the get-go, they were a collaborative platform for designers, made them invaluable in a moment where everything was about collaboration, which is us. Like from the foundation, what we do is collaboration, and the rest is obviously music making, but like it stems from there.
I have a blunt question. We've mentioned gaming, Unity, Figma, all these kind of stuff. Things that are, first of all, worth an incredible amount of money, but also are in attractive industries. You guys are in the music production space of music industry. What do you say to investors? Like, what are they getting into? What's the upside?
The idea of what we're doing is not that we're targeting this very niche subsegment of music production. It's content creation. It's the content creation economy, because our product, as you've seen, if you've tried it, it is not a DAW that's going to compete with Ableton. It is something that is tailored to be more broader access, low barrier to entry, more accessible. And what we're doing is we're bridging, the gap between professional and amateur in an environment that is compatible for that. So what it means is that content creators out there who are, making music on Twitch, on YouTube, TikTok and whatnot, I think it's the industry that is the least well served by the recent advent in technology, because it remains to this day content being produced by them and consumed by their audience, without ever having an opportunity to go back up from the audience to the content creator. There's no interaction. It is always asynchronous of just I'm doing something and you react to it. Our goal is to have an environment that's going to enable these content creators to just go out there, whether it's bringing in their most engaged users into a session, making a beat, flipping music, or just interacting on reviewing what the audience has made. But at the very least, you're opening the door to a new type of content that's never been done, that's never been really exposed. And like one of the reasons we used Unity again is for that, because if you look at a DAW, it's boring as fuck. Like most of the time you go on Twitch, you look at that, it's just different shades of colors, and like it's very hard to be engaged with that. You mostly listen to it, you don't look at it. So it needed to be visually stimulating and interesting. So different approach to how we're actually kind of growing the market. It's not necessarily production.
That makes sense. Obviously, the barrier to entry of creating music has been quite high, since forever, and that is sort of changing as technology evolves these days. What do you see happening with the creation of music? Like, what kind of people are going into this, and how easy will it be to start making music in the future?
It'll get easier. I think there's a lot of glimmers of the things changing a little bit, because you got these kids, they're like 15, they're on Roblox, they're on Fortnite, and they get excited by some stuff. But even these huge platforms in the gaming world are offering musical services there, but they don't look like a DAW. They look a little bit different. They give you less options, but with less options means you're getting kind of faster to making a note. I think the world is realizing sometimes a piano is scary. People associate piano keys with work when they look at it. There's the whole history of it. DAWs are scary, and technology is advancing that way. AI is certainly interesting, of course. You see a lot of those AI kind of song creation stuff, which is what it is. Like, it serves a niche of you need whatever kind of content to fill, fine. But it's very hollow as a feeling if you've ever tried it. Just type a few words and boom, you get an outcome. I think people make music as they want to make music. They enjoy the act of creating it.
It's a good gateway drug, if you will. Like you go on Suno, you get the feeling that, oh shit, I just created something. Let me look a bit into it. What could I do to maybe add my touch or do something, and then boom, you're into this world, right? It's I think that's part of like the interest. I also went to a conference just a couple months back in Montreal for like the Canadian essentially representation of artists, and how the rights are being managed and all of that. And I think a lot of the Canadian industry, at the very least, not to generalize it, is seeing it the wrong way. They're trying to kind of like sue after the fact, and they're going to have to demonstrate damage and all of that, which is like, I'm not going to go too much into it, right? It's a topic that's been over talked about. But they should see the upside, which is exactly what Nick is saying. I think it is growing the pie rather than shrinking it. There is so many opportunity for new people to get into music in many, many different ways. And what we're doing is just one way, but like AI is another great opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, I used to work with music full time. I ran a music studio. I even produced. In my small country, I produced a few hits. So like, I was more than usually good at producing, but my biggest problem was I wasn't an instrumentalist, which means I was always dependent on other people to do a lot of the hard work. And even to this day, like, I've worked in music for 12 years. I have the highest degree in audio engineering you can have in the world. Like, I have really worked with music. I'm a tone meister. Like, I've been deep in it, and I could not with confidence say that I can go today and make what I believe good music alone, which is insane. Like, I've been a part of big projects blow up, and creatively, like, I know music really, really well. I should be able to express myself in the way I want through music, and I cannot. Even to this day, I don't believe that there's appropriate tools, and for me, it's very perplexing. Like, we talked a tiny bit about BandLab, or I mentioned it before we started this recording, was obviously is a platform that has some sort of similarities to how they approach things as you do. But even that, I sat down with their DAW on an iPad like a year ago, and it's like, I know what I'm doing and I'm not really feeling it. I have a hard time getting this, off the ground. So I think there's just so much to be had and created in music that makes that easier. Like, I don't believe creativity should be such a struggle for many people. I appreciate the art of creating music. I appreciate instruments. I appreciate that whole theory. But again, does it really have that big a part of the future in any other industries? Like, do I need to know how a computer works to play a game? Like, can I just start playing? And I think we're missing out on a lot of things in music by not having that mindset.
Couldn't agree more, man. Could not agree more. I think,
Yeah.
if you look at, I hate doing this kind of like self-patting on the back, but like if you look at our latest release, we are scratching the surface of exactly that. Like, you're talking about inspiration. I think the biggest thing that we're tackling is the essentially the blank page syndrome that some people have of not knowing what to do when they start. Our latest release is focused on essentially allowing people to share their music and jump into their project, to finish, to flip, to maybe just get inspired to start their own version of what's being produced. But like, the issue that you're describing here, and you go on BandLab and you see some of the people are posting music for people to kind of like branch off. They don't allow the same level of granularity to go into it. And oftentimes it's just finished music that people are promoting kind of like under the guise of, hey, flip my music, which goes against the very purpose of the feature that they tried to implement. So there's a bit of a disconnect there.
There's also the tendency of DAWs and digital music, and we can be guilty of this too, of just, I talked about it before, doing the same thing again, like knobs on a plugin. So annoying. Like, you're supposed to drag the mouse up and down or left and right. It's different. It's unintuitive. We're modeling ourselves after legacy hardware, which is unfamiliar, especially for the younger generation, right? Like, that are touchscreen digital first, but we don't have digital first interfaces that reflect this. We're still modeling studio equipment from the 70s, and you see plugins come with little tape machine decks, and kids these days don't even know what that is. So I think we're a little bit stuck in our ways sometimes, and games are imaginative too, right? Like, they break rules all the time. They don't look like traditional apps. They'll turn things sideways, 3D. They just have fun with it, and they allow users to sometimes play and express themselves differently than previously, and they're not scared to offer emergent gameplay or sandbox gameplay and let people kind of do what they want. And I think the music industry, boy, we're so formulaic, right? Where it's like, okay, first you compose a song, and then you mix it, and then you master it, and then you release it, and then you're going through a publisher, and it's like you have this conveyor belt of what a song is supposed to be going forward, and it's just always all these set little paths and little stones that you're going to hop through. But that's not really how music is even made, and I don't think this is how the industry is going to change. And it's difficult because there's money to be made. You could bleed that song for 5%, 10%, 30 cents on the dollar over here and over there. Whereas if they start branching out and doing things themselves, like you see with gaming, or I could be an indie dev and I can upload something on itch or just deploy it on Steam or whatever it is. Even on the Switch now, like, you could just go straight to the publisher and skip these middle managers. Well, the music industry is an old industry of making money off of these things. It doesn't want it to happen that way. So it's difficult to move away from that.
I will say, though, one thing, there is some hope. Okay, like, I'm not talking about us here. I don't think I can disclose, but we are working with some pretty big players right now to try and bring this kind of like fresh flavor to how the whole system flows. And beyond that, if you look at companies like Universal Music Group, they have this program in place where they are trying to shift how the monetization of the music is made. They had this big issue with TikTok this summer because they are unable to actually see how their music is being monetized on the platform, and they always have to litigate after the fact. So they created this kind of incubator program for startups who would be in a good position to find new ways to just take all of these assets, all of these songs that they've been stockpiling in vaults for years, and find ways for people to make music with it. and pay them essentially for that without having to go through the distribution phase and like monetization of rights and all that, which I think is a very good indication for the industry because they're obviously one of the biggest players out there.
Yeah, I see a lot of willingness. Though I'm actually less hopeful, and it's not sort of.
You said you were Danish, huh? So
yes, that's true. And the reason why I'm less hopeful, actually, I was discussing this with a professor like Hope. I guess that's going to be released in before this one, and he's more optimistic than me. But I'm still not so hopeful for the reason that, any big change needs to be driven by a lot of consumers and users, and I don't see that happening very fast. So as much as there's willingness to innovation, I believe that any company, how great they might be in how they think of things, will be on a very long journey just because the whole macro environment is not going to allow for this super amount of adaptation really fast. Like, gaming has a big enough user base to find a new thing that becomes a niche that's still viable to pursue. In music, that is not really the case. Like, again, I don't have numbers. You would have numbers, but like, even if you were to attract a good number of users compared to what is producing music right now to whatever you're doing, that still wouldn't compare like in any way to what a good feature in gaming would be. So there's the additional struggle of being first movers in an industry where there's just not scale. And someone needs to pay the bill. Who is going to pay the bill as you start putting this into the market and bringing something better to the table?
Oh, the short answer, I'll leave you the long one, Nick. But like, this is going to be the SVC or like essentially the companies, as I said, like the Universal and whatnot. The people who will foot the bill is the people who benefit from getting an advantage in an industry that is trying to kind of like split the same pie differently. Go Nick, sorry.
That was really well said. I have to kind of like rethink my answer a little bit over here. I will say that it's about splitting the pie, and a lot of what we're talking about is trying to make the pie a little bit bigger, right? Like with our own, it's interesting when you compare to the gaming stuff because, for example, Path of Exile 2 just released, big popular game. I look at their concurrent numbers on Steam. I'm like, wow, 100,000 people online right now, and that's their low, of people playing that game. That's wild. Like those are big numbers. But there's a huge gap between games that are successful and not successful at all. You do have the AAA studios that garner a lot of money, the FIFA, and the EAs and the Ubisofts. And you have some indie companies, AA studios, we can call them, that are not really indie, right? They have like 100 employees, still considered indie by that standard, who are doing well, like the Path of Exiles and like a few other notables. And then it just falls off a cliff. And there are zillions of games being made because the barrier to entry is quite low and the tools are amazing that don't make any money at all. And you could see that in a lot of the game development forums and the struggles. And, we hire people sometimes from the gaming industry and it's not going well. In general, most of the studios are closing. There's a reconciliation of the bubble that's been kind of happening over there. So it's not always roses. I will say, however, that the business practices that you're seeing in the gaming industry are growing the pie, and that is what I hope that we can achieve. Just look at pricing. Man, like $200 for a DAW, $80 for a reverb, like that stuff it's a lot. And in a world that's getting increasingly expensive, you have to adapt your model. That may mean that you're not able to get $500 a year off of someone. Maybe you're going to get $50 a year off of someone. Then that's the reality of the business that you need to be looking forward to. But it does mean more people are going to be able to access this.
Yeah, no. Like just a small comment. Like again, I started using Waves back in the day. I guess that must have been like 15 years ago, or whatever. And every single time I want to go back to some of my projects and I need to upgrade my Waves version from whatever, like 15 versions that I have now, you need to pay for it. Like it's just impossible to, even as a professional consumer, like jump back into music. Like it's, the price point is just so high, just having fun. And sure, I can start over somewhere else. But again, it's, I've paid, I don't know, $2,000 throughout the years for the things I have, and I can't use them. And it's digital products, for God's sake. Like, it's incredible.
Super annoying. It's obviously part of like the reasons we started this. There's so many things that are backwards. And to kind of like go back to your point of like optimism versus pessimist, I think one of the reason I'm optimist is because one of the things that made gaming what it is today is the kind of like consolidation of distribution. When you look at Steam as an example, you know, and the rise of Steam and the rise of gaming kind of go hand in hand because they standardized for both the users and the developers how the interaction was going to happen, how the process was going to be made, and then just went on from there. So you still have the game manufacturers doing their thing, which is the equivalent today to the manufacturers of DAWs, plugins, sound, name it. The thing that I see that is about to change is the Steam part, which is the social community distribution side of thing that is consolidated into a platform that's going to allow for the explosion and democratization of music. So you can't look at DAWs because DAWs are going to do what DAW do, and they're just going to create silo. You have to look at the players that are trying to bridge those different experiences into one environment that connects everything.
Okay. I think it makes perfect sense. I'm just going to ask you a direct question. You guys, recently raised some capital. You've probably been doing that in several rounds. I haven't really researched that, but again, you've raised some capital, which is, like for the music tech industry, like pretty good. But again, telling the narrative of being, first movers in this space must be difficult. Like, how do you foresee this happening? Like, how much do you need in the future? How big do you need to build it? And do you think someone is going to support that whole long journey? Because as you talk, there's very little I disagree with, if anything. And I feel very hopeful for the mission. My big question mark is who's going to buy into it? What's your sense of it? Like, what do you guys need, and do you think you can get it?
Yes. Short answer. No, but to be serious about it, it's obviously like one of the hardest industry to raise money in. Like, no questions asked, because for all of the reasons that you listed. But one of the good things though about music is, even though the return on investment is not the highest out of all, the startups that you can see out there if you build a portfolio, there are a lot of passionate individuals building funds with regards to music. So some people made obscene amount of money and they created fund with a very clear thesis on how they were going to spend that money. So the specialization of VC is one of the things that happened, over the course of the pandemic, actually, like that. You can clearly see a trend of specialization, which helps, obviously, startups like ours in the music industry to just go directly to them, look at their thesis, look at the different investment that they made in the portfolio, and see if there's synergies between the different companies that have been invested in. And then it is kind of like together, that the highest value and the highest return can be achieved. So I'm not going to deny that it's freaking hard to raise money in music, but it's not like there's not a path to do it, and it's not like there's not investors out there that are actively looking for startups that are trying to change this whole kind of like ecosystem. And it only takes one success story for kind of like this whole paradigm to shift in a direction where music is going to become a good investment.
Yeah, and again, I've been studying music tech financing a lot. And shout out to myself there. I have 3 articles on LinkedIn. You can go read about it. But so there's definitely,
you must be a gold member, I could tell.
Yeah. There's definitely potential. It's really difficult to sort of communicate at scale. Like, both shout out and also like to what's called modern music, which is like analytics and data on music tech financing. Looking through those lists, I recently joined that platform. It's just, even though it's really good overview, like it's not even a tenth of what I know is like being invested out there. Like, it's just not very transparent. We don't have data on it. Like, the place to go for this data is Warner Music right now, and maybe a few other gatekeep data sources. but it's not even showing like this tiny bit of the truth. I don't know what you're referring to, but like she comes out with reports every single year, and I think last year there's like 4,219 different investments and stuff like that. And then I looked at like angel investments, 9, which is like I literally like myself know of 100. Like but again, if that's not transferred, if that's not shared, if that sort of passion and knowledge is not transferred, it's going to be really difficult to communicate that. So there's so many boundaries you guys need to pass in order to get there. What I do love about you guys is you have a very sober and clear understanding of the problem, which can actually be really hard to have because of it's in a passion industry, and also the music production space, in my opinion, is rather blind on itself. Like there's very few disruptive players out there that actually is doing something that I think is incredibly interesting. Very few. And I don't know why that is. I think, now I'm doing a monologue, but to be completely honest, the space that you guys are in are traditionally speaking a very small niche. So no one with actually a sane mind would go into it with the purpose of making money. Luckily, you guys have a tiny bit different approach. But again, that's also why I would assume why it hasn't happened. Like we're 7 or 8 years since I'm referring to that Pro Tools, whatever they have for online collaboration that sucked very bad, to now, and still not have that adopted at scale really speaks to the unattractiveness of the thing you're doing at large.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of I digress or sort of run up to the conversation. But what I think is interesting that you guys do is that you're pursuing it with a different mindset, which isn't necessarily hard. I think it's just hard to survive with a different mindset. Like there's a lot of barriers you need to break through.
100%.
I mentioned earlier that our first trade show was NUM. That was digital. We had a lot of people show up. And it was great. We made so many connections, nothing of which could kind of panned out, but it was awesome that it happened at all. And I remember at the last part of the show is they were showing the companies that presented that were the most innovative. And I was like, wow, do you think we're actually going to get mentioned? This would be amazing. And I remember we lost to a saxophone strap. and then
that was the end of
NUM. I realized, that was my one of the first sobering experiences I remember having for what the audio industry is like. I'll never forget that.
Amazing. It must have been revolutionary, that strap.
I mean, I have one at home right now. I use it every day,
Yeah.
I never leave the house without it.
I remember that, and I remember the runner-up being an upgrade for a DAW, but the judge was the VP for that DAW. And
amazing.
You just got the whole sense of the industry out of that whole thing. And I was like, boy, they all know each other. They're all just patting each other on the back for doing the same thing that they've been doing. There was nothing new. There was nothing fresh going on, at least when we were exploring and checking things out. And it's been like that with most of our interaction with that industry. So I agree. It is a hard road. It's difficult to change people's minds, both from the business and the consumer standpoint.
Takes time and capital. You nailed it, man. It's unlike other industries where you can just have a good product and then it's going to take off and it's going to be the new thing like TikTok or whatnot. This needs at least, a lot of early adoption to convince investors to get money, to kind of go up on that curve and then get more money. It is very cash intensive to get anything off the ground. And that's where 99% of all the businesses in music tech, they either die or they get acquired. So that's, we're lucky to be there.
And you guys are, as far as I understand, sort of going for a scale business model. Again, you're not charging for a primary service. It's everything around it. Guys, I appreciate this talk. Again, I can recognize the problem. I can also recognize the solution is very sane and good and innovative. So I hope you succeed, and thank you for sharing the journey. How are you guys, maybe the last questions now, you guys are sort of, let's call it midway of the journey. You've been going on for 5 years. You have launched something that's significant. You've raised capital. You've built stuff. You have users. how are you guys doing? Like, what's your motivation? Like, do you feel like this is still the right choice? And the obvious question is yes, because there might be investors listening. But let's talk about the personal thing. Like, where are you guys personally right now in that journey?
Gosh, the ups and downs, as I say, sometimes it could be really challenging. We could spend months on a feature and release it, expecting it to change the world, just to have it bomb absolutely completely and to have no feedback from people. Other times it's the other way around. One of our marketing guys last year just grabbed one of our videos, posted it on a platform, completely bombed, and then at 2 a.m. said, why not? Why shouldn't I upload this on TikTok? And then did. And we woke up to 1 million views. The thing went viral. So many people flooding the thousands and thousands, all in one day. And it's because they were looking for change. They were looking for something different, and like they were excited about that stuff. And when things like that happen, and they've happened rarely, but they do happen, events, I'm like, boy, I can tell we're doing something right. Maybe we don't have it right now. I've often felt it's like a spiral where like there's like a golden center of truth of like what this could actually be. And each iteration we get like a little bit closer. Sometimes we whiz past it, But every time we do, it gives me like a lot more wind in my sail personally to keep going, because it is, of course, a sacrifice and a grind. But we could see sometimes that we're really heading in the right direction, and it would just be awesome. Yeah, for us, obviously, like if the company went forward. But I think about myself when I was younger. If I had something like this, that was exactly like, if I close my eyes, how perfect could this be? And I open it, and I was like 19 again. Oh, that'd be awesome. I hope we could provide that experience for people, That's motivating.
It's definitely kind of aligned with Nick there. I'm sure you've had like tons and tons of founders say the same thing, to that question on your podcast, but it's really like being able to manage your expectations and kind of like not looking the forest for the trees. Like you just take one step forward, always kind of like rationalizing what you're doing, because it is easy as a founder to kind of get lost into everything that you're doing, and the fact that there's never a clear path forward as to what should be the next step, what to do, where am I going to be in 12 months from now, and just remembering that you're doing this for the fun of actually, owning a business, building something that people have never experienced, and having fun with it. Because if honestly, like, it's not about the money. You've said it, and music industry is the wrong industry to go in if you're trying to like make a big buck. So when we do, get a ton of like, kind of like that quality feedback from people on Discord and, on the videos and all that, makes it all worth it, man. But it's not an easy journey.
And I think sort of to sort of round this conversation off, I think what would be beautiful and perhaps to some degree realistic is that in 15 years from now, you could go to music for making money. Like you could go to music technology for money, the same way that you would pursue other creative industries that are doing better than music in that area. And I think that's the journey I'm very curious about. As I said to you guys, and hinted to a few times with this podcast, I am on my way out of music as a singular purpose for the reason that I'm 32. I have been an entrepreneur for 12, 13 years. I have 3 beautiful kids I need to feed. And I'm still going to be here in music. I still have companies in this space, and I'm continuing to do the podcast. But I need to go to other places that pays me a lot more as a company to then be present here and hopefully in 15 years get the same amount of potential than in other industries. And I think that's what I've come to realize. Like, initiatives like yours, if they succeed, is going to make that able. As of right now, you can't go here for money, but I hope it will happen in the future. And I hope that you guys will play a part of that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope for
you should think about investing in saxophone straps. I've heard those things are like really all the rage these days.
Love it. Yeah, that is innovation.
That's where the money's at.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Nick. This is great. I hope guys check out your platform and then follow you on your journey. I definitely will.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you so much. Really
It's been a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.